Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the webinar, the songwriting webinar. So what we're going to do today is just have a quick overview of what we've done so far. Before we go even to that point, I want to remind you straight away to do that little thing that we always start with, which is change the grid view in the grid view bar. So if I share my screen, if you remember, we're going to start most of the sessions by going up to view on the left hand side over here. View, grid size, it defaults to bar every time you log in. Sorry, it defaults to smart every time, and I want you to go onto bar. Having said that, in this session we're going to get a little bit clever with some editing where we will change that view setting, that grid size, so that we can get into the fine detail of chopping up a loop or a sample into smaller components than a bar. Let's say a quarter bar, a half bar. We can have some fun with that. So I am going to rewind the song so far, and we covered the break, albeit rather rapidly, on the last session. If you can see the screen, we got up to here, 25 to 29, and you'll notice I have done an extra bit here which we're going to be doing today. So I will actually allow that to play on, and I'll comment as we go through the section so you'll know that at bar 29 you haven't done this bit yet, but that's what we're going to be doing today. So from the beginning, rewind, and this is my song so far. So this is the introduction. And if you have joined us a little bit late on this webinar series, you can see the recordings. We've put them into the BandLab area, as well as the web course that you've got on learning.inclusivemusic.com. There is a course there for you to enjoy for a year if you want some really in-depth detail about how to put together a song like this. But we started off with the introduction. That's 16 bars long. Please ignore this bit down here. This is all sort of like my notes where I use things to drag it up into this main area here. So you shouldn't have this here. And you can see on the left-hand side, that's muted, M for mute. We did the introduction, 16 bars. And then we did the chorus, possibly the most important part of a song because we play it a lot. It's going to be probably duplicated 6 times maybe within a song. It's the catchy part, and so we are looking for the best bass, the best beats, and the best melodies. And here on the end of it, I added some effects last time, which I call the icing on the cake. And effects like this is a reverse cymbal, which sort of suggests a transition coming from the chorus to the next section, or the introduction to the next section. And a cymbal is a sort of a useful place to add emphasis at the beginning of a section. And then we went on to the break here, the break being just 4 bars long. And the idea of a break is literally that. We're taking a break from the excitement, the build up so far. We've reached a platform, we've had a crescendo, we've reached the peak, and now we want to bring people down a little bit get them less excited, calm them down. It can be called the drop in certain circles like dance music. DJs do that a lot in various modern genres. And we're calming things down, and then we're going to start building it slowly back up to the next chorus. And what I'll do is I'll just delete this, and you can see I've got this sort of square lasso which selects all this section here, and if I press delete on the keyboard it disappears. So how did I construct the break? Well, I found a beat, so let me bring up the loops one moment. I'm using the two-step pack, so I could just type in the number 2 here, and there it is, two-step garage, and there are all my samples. So the one I chose to bring the beat down a bit was beat 11, which I felt was calm. Instead of a snare drum there, it's got a side stick or a rim shot, very quiet. So what I'm going to do is bring that up, and I'm going to make sure that I put it on the same track as always, which is, if I go over to the left-hand side, is the beat. So all the way along the song, the beat has its own name, and I'll show you how to name tracks today as well. And it's important that they go on the same track. So all the beats are going to go on the beat track. It makes sense. And it makes sense as well, because if I decide that the beats or the drums are too loud throughout the whole song, I can just change the volume here and bring them all a little bit down. So there's my beat put in at bar 25, and I will put the cycle on. So if I go over here, cycles on, it usually defaults to the first 4 bars. There it is. But I can drag it over to bar 25. Let's bring it across. And it goes that sort of rusty red color. And that means the cycle's on. When I press play, it's going to play from 25 to bar 29 and round again. So if you want to do that now, put the cycle on if you haven't already. That's a great way to do it. The next instrument I wanted was strings here. So I found the two-step strings, which I thought was quite gentle. And I say gentle because I want to bring the whole feel of this section right down, calm people down. So that felt like a really nice sound. And I'm going to put this on the Melody 2 track. There it is, Melody 2. And let's have a listen to those two together. And it's worth mentioning that this is just one way you can put a song together. So I don't want to be prescriptive. In other words, I don't want to tell you, oh, your break has to be 4 bars long. It doesn't. If you want to make it 2 bars long, you can. If you want to make it 8 bars long, you can. All I'll suggest is for this learning session, for these tutorials, if we can stick to the same numbers, it's useful because then when I say at bar 33, the second half of the verse comes in, you'll be able to synchronize and it will work the same as it is for me. But any other time that when you want to make your own song, you must do it the way you want to do it and the way that sounds best for you, as there is no one way or set way to make music in any style. So we've got the beats and the strings. I did have a bass in there, but I felt it was too much. It was too loud and too exciting. So I actually deleted the bass I had in here. And then I wanted to add something, a little bit of icing on the cake, as I've called it before. And the icing on the cake is just a little additional thing. It's usually an effect of some description. And I wanted the idea of some crescendo building up that would tell the listener that at bar 29, there is something new going to happen. Now, what I did to look for this was go into all loops here. And literally, we now have 2,000 or 3,000 different sounds you could choose from. and then I searched it for certain words. So for example, I could have said riser. And a riser is something that DJs use a lot and producers use a lot. It's a very obvious way to build a crescendo. So let me just pick one randomly here to play you. That's a really long one, and it wouldn't actually fit there, but you get the idea. The pitch rises, the volume rises, and it gives that suggestion that something is about to happen. Let's try one more. That's a little bit more gentle. That could be quite nice. And I like using these just to suggest that something exciting is about to happen. Anyway, I found one. This is where I'm going to use the lower part of my screen. This is like my area of where I put in samples to store them, like a deep freeze, if you like. And I found the Bada Crash Delay Break. So I'm now going to drag that in, and I'm going to put it on the effects track here. So going to the left, you can see it says effects. I've got 2 effects tracks at the moment, as well as a melody, beat, bass, melody 2, and it will sound like this. It's very subtle because you can see it's at the beginning. If you can start reading these waveforms, we discussed this on an earlier tutorial, that when a line is really small, it's very quiet. And so you can see the Bada Crash Delay, it's getting louder as it goes on, which is great for a crescendo build-up. Let's have a listen. Okay, well done everyone. Let's move on to the next section, which I'm going to call the verse, and it's going to be 8 bars long, from bars 29 to 37. And the verse I'm going to suggest is minimal, and that means it doesn't have too many instruments in it, doesn't have too many loops. I'm going to be suggesting it's less catchy than the chorus because we want to play it down. The chorus is the exciting bit. We're going to build that up as the song develops. It should contain space for the verse vocal if we want to add a vocal. And I don't know if any of you are singers or rappers, or you know somebody who is. Well, there's an opportunity for them to come in on the chorus as well as the verse to add a vocal. So we're going to be leaving a lot of space. And very importantly, it should fit with the introduction and the chorus, and must not sound like an entirely different song. And again, that takes time. It's very easy to like a lot of loops, throw them in, and then suddenly think, oh, that sounds like a completely different song, like a DJ suddenly nudged the record or the CD and it went on to a completely different song. So with that in mind, let's have a listen to the one I've just done. And for this, I'm now going to move the cycle from bar 29 and extend it to bar 37. And that means when I play up here, the play button, it will go straight into the verse. Now, let's have a quick look at this. The first part of the verse from 29 to 33, you'll see, has just 3 tracks. That's the melody, melody 1, the beat, and the bass. And then halfway through, bar 33 to 37, I've added the keys on the melody 2 track. So half of it has 3 tracks and half the verse has 4 tracks. And this is a deliberate thing because this is obviously going to be quieter and less interesting than this area here with 4 tracks. That's going to add a little bit of interest, the new track, and a little bit more volume. So let's have a listen. And you'll see I've also done something slightly odd here, slightly different, which we will look at a little bit later on when we've got our basic sounds together. Now, if you remember how we started our song, I'm going to go back to the beginning here. We started the whole introduction with these blocks of sound where we got 4 sounds together and we know they sounded good together, and then we can mess around with them. And we did. We extended them into an introduction. And I put together 4 blocks, okay, that I thought they go together, those 4 go together, those 4 and those 4. And that's what I did here. Same idea, is find 4 blocks, which is this bit here, and then actually took one out here and took little bits out here. So the same idea is true all the way along. It's finding sounds that go together that you feel happy with, and then changing them, editing them, cutting them, slicing them, reversing them. We'll do all sorts of interesting effects during this particular webinar to show you how that happened. This is what I'm going to do. Again, I'm going to just grab them all with my lasso. And to do a lasso, by the way, I can be in this little free square there. I can hold down the left mouse button, and then, as you see, this sort of rectangular square lasso, as it touches the samples, get a white line around them, and that shows me that they are selected. These aren't selected, they have no white line around them, but these are. And then I can press delete on the QWERTY keyboard, or I can right click to get the BandLab menu, and I can press delete. Okay, so there's the gap that we are now going to fill. So this is where I'm going to start, and this is where you can start working with me. Again, I'll demonstrate and give you some time to do the stuff yourself. So once again, I always liked starting with a beat. That's my preference. You can do a bass, you can do an instrument, you can do whatever you like. For me, as I said, I've been through all these and found the right one. I want to find a beat that isn't as catchy and exciting as the chorus, but is a little bit more exciting than the break here. And the one I found was beat 6, this one. So once again, I'm going to click, hold and drag it and put it on the same track that the beat has already been on. And in fact, it all turns it yellow. So this is a guide, this is a help. All the beats are on the yellow mustardy track. Now, that is only a 4-bar loop. So I'm hoping you remember how we copy it or extend it. We have a number of options here, but the one we want is this circular arrow at the top right corner, and we're dragging that. And because it's grid size bar, it looks like nothing's happening, but it jumps to the bar line. 36, 37, and that is my extended copied beat. And I know it's copied because that's a lighter shade of yellow than this one here. The next thing I'm going to do is a bass. And once again, I'm looking at my reference point down here. I liked bass 7. Haven't used this before, so that's another good thing. One click. And I like that because there is a gap. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to drag that into the bass track just under the beat. That's the pinky red track. And what I mean by there's a gap here, we can see the bass is loud. It's a big, loud bass, but here there's a flat line, and we know that's silent. And that gives us some space. And as I said at the beginning of this tutorial on the verse, we want some space so we can add maybe a vocal here or whatever we fancy. How do I copy it? It's the top right hand corner. By the way, if you forget that or you make a mistake, let's just grab this one and you can see what happens. If anyone can drop in the chat what they think this sounds like here, I'll be interested. In the meantime, I'm going to take that back because that's not what I wanted to do. Just a demonstration. I want to copy it like that. I'm going to play now. I'm going to actually stop there and let you have a couple of minutes to find a bass and find a beat or two sounds that you want to start with. As I said, it's up to you what you choose. Bear in mind that we're looking for something more exciting than the break. That was the gentle thing. We brought people down, we calmed them down. We're now building up towards the next chorus. So think of that crescendo. We're going to build it over time. Let me give you a couple of minutes to find two tracks that sound good together. I'm suggesting the beat and the bass. You can decide upon what you want. And when you're ready, just put into the chat, ready. So I'm going to add another melody or another keyboard string part. It could be guitar. It could be something with a tune. The one I like is the strings again. So this is one I've created earlier, two-step strings. And I like this one because I thought that could be a really good vocal. In other words, it's got the notes very, very clearly. I could hum that. Do, 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 do. If I can hum it, I can sing it. That's quite catchy. So I'm going to just drag this in and I'm going to put it up on melody 1. And I am going to extend it once again, copy it to bar 37 and have a listen. Let's just move the screen over a bit so it's in the middle. Now I suggested that the verse is 8 bars long. And so to have something playing for 4 bars and then another 4 bars without any change, to me personally is a little bit boring. And if I want to create this crescendo, this build up over time, even if it is only 8 bars, I'm going to look for something on the second half between bar 33 and 37 that adds that bit of interest, brings it up a bit with a volume. Again, it could be anything that you find in your loop pack. I like to find another keyboard, and the one I found was keys 13. This is what it sounds like. And this is quite an odd sound. It sounds to me like it's going backwards. It's reversed anyway, so that adds a bit of interest. It's quiet, so it won't be that obvious. It'll be quite subtle, but let's give it a try. So once again, I'm going to drag it in, this time, not to the beginning, but to halfway through the verse, starting at bar 33, so that the second half is more exciting than the first half. Let's play that. I will give you another couple of minutes to do that so that the second half from 33 to 37 has 4 tracks, 4 loops of your choice. When you've done that and you're happy, don't forget to be saving your work, top right-hand corner. Be doing that every 5 minutes or even every time you've got something you like, save it. Remember, this is saved in the cloud, so this is not using up any space on your computer. In the cloud, it seems to be pretty safe. So save your work every now and then. So the last little bit, as far as I'm concerned, for this verse is just on the end of here, the last bar. I'm going to take something out. And this again is a sort of DJ trick, a producer trick, if that's the right word for it. It's an effect that's used a lot. And by putting in a little bit less in this last bar or this last 2 bars, it once again has that effect of suggesting that something is about to change. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the beat track and go to the loop or the copy area, and I'm going to drag it back just 1 bar, and it jumps again because the grid's on, leaving that little bit of space. So I'm going to play that. So you heard the beat drop out there. And I'm going to do one more cut, and that's to the keys track, this melody track, this sort of backward effect track. Once again, I'm going to take it back a bar. And if it doesn't do that, you can see that I'm trying to remove it, take it back. It's not doing that because I haven't looped this one. And that's where the bottom right-hand corner is very useful, because I can actually shorten the loop like that. Let's just do that again. Make sure you can see that. I'm trying to do the same as I did on the drums. That doesn't work. And it doesn't work because this was copied. It's the lighter shade. This is the original shade. It means I can't lessen it that way. I can't shorten it that way, but I can with the bottom right-hand icon. And there, it's the same effect. There is a space, there is a silence. The keys stop there, the drums stop there, and it sounds like this. Let's give you a couple of minutes to decide which track or tracks you want to shorten, leaving a 1-bar break or gap or silence in one of your tracks, 2 of your tracks, 3 of your tracks. I mean, effectively, I have 3 tracks silence because the bass here is silent anyway, okay? So I could actually just, for effect purposes, you can now see I've just got that one keyboard track playing. And I like that because that, in fact, is the melody, as I see it, a little tune that would be great for a vocal to go over the top there. I've created some space, some silence, and it allows the next section to have more of an impact when it comes in. So let me give you 2 more minutes to just experiment by pushing forwards and backwards until you've found something that you think sounds really good. Off you go.
Everyone's done.
Everyone's done. Fantastic. Right. Let's have a look at something before we go into the next section, which I think we'll probably leave for the next webinar now. I want to develop some good habits. And by that, I mean getting a little bit more organized. And what I mean by that is naming the tracks that we're using and possibly reordering them. So if you look on the left-hand side of my screen, at the top, I've got something called Melody 1, then below it, Beat, Bass, Melody 2, FX, Effects. Now, what I'm going to suggest to you in the next 10 minutes or so, or may take less than that, but we're going to do some renaming of the tracks. So when you drop a loop in, you'll notice it probably says 2-step beats 02. And that basically is whatever sample you used to start your song remains there. But we can change it very simply. And what I've done here is, instead of it being, let's say, 2-step beats 11, I've just called it beat. And the way I did that was just double click on the name and type in, I could just delete that and type in whatever I like. But I keep it very simple and called it beat or beats. And then return, and that's rename the track. So I call this Beats, Bass, Melody 2 and Melody 1 and Effects. And that's what I have on the track from the beginning to the end. Now, what you might find, depending on what sample pack or loop pack you use, Melody 2 doesn't mean much to you. You might just call it, for example, strings and keep all the string sounds on here. So if that was the case, once again, you can just delete it and type in strings, and you can see I've got keys on my strings track, so I might add a new track here and put the keys on that track. So I could do that, or I could then say strings and keys, and that describes similar sounds, but it might be strings, keys and guitar. Now, I used to do this a lot because when BandLab first came out, it only had 12 tracks available, but a recent upgrade has allowed us 16 tracks, so we can have 16 different names. And actually, 16 tracks suggests to me that we don't need to group things together anymore. We could actually just have a strings track, a keys track, a guitar track, an effects track, a beats track. And if you want 2 beats, we can have beats 1 and beats 2, percussion, whatever comes up really, effects 1, effects 2. So what I'd like you to do is rename the tracks that you've used. And if you need to just check what you've done, what you could do is go back to the beginning, and S for solo allows you to hear just the track you've clicked on. So now I'm going to take the cycle off. I can hear the first top track I've used. And I've called that melody 1, but I could call it strings. And of course, if you put a bass onto a beats track, this is the time to get organized and try and cross them over. And to do that, for example, I could grab one, move it down, and then move that up to the right track. Okay, I'm going to undo that because I'm pretty happy that I've got it in the right place. I'm not going to add anything else to this particular tutorial other than to say the last thing you can do is reorder the tracks in the order you like. So because I always like to go for beats first, I'm going to actually click on the beats track. It goes a slightly lighter gray, and I'm going to drag it by holding down the mouse and just dragging it up to the top. So now my beats are on the top. And my bass, I'm going to click on the bass track, that selects it, and I'm going to drag that up just below the beats. So my beats and my bass are at the top. And I've lost that crescendo type look that I was going for earlier in the introduction, but it doesn't alter the fact that the melody is still coming in first. It will sound exactly the same. But now I've got beats, bass, melody. I rename that strings. I might go back to melody 2. And I've got 2 effects track. What I might do down here is call this deep freeze 1. And that's a reminder to me that all of this I use on this track is muted. We're not going to hear it. And I'm just going to drop in sounds and samples whenever I've got spare time that I might want to use later.